In May 1940, the world was certain of one thing. If any force could stop the Nazi war machine, it was France. With 3.7 million men, 14,000 artillery pieces, and heavy tanks that were arguably superior to anything the Germans possessed, France was a steel wall of Europe, supported by the elite British Expeditionary Force. The Allies held every numerical advantage, but history has a cruel way of defying expectations. In just 6 weeks, 46 short, chaotic days, the most sophisticated defense system in the world didn't just bend. It shattered. An entire global superpower evaporated so quickly that even the German High Command was left in disbelief. How did the best army in the world collapse in less time than a summer vacation? Was it cowardice or a stroke of tactical genius that blinded an entire generation of generals? Welcome back to World War II Stories. Today, we decode the greatest military mystery of the 20th century, the fall of France, 1940. After the destruction of Poland in 1939, Adolf Hitler was a man in a hurry. He knew his marriage of convenience with Stalin was a ticking time bomb. He needed to knock France out of the war before British industrial might and French manpower could grind Germany into a war of attrition. Hitler demanded an immediate invasion. His generals, however, were terrified. They remembered the slaughter of World War I. General Wilhelm Ritter von Lieb warned, "A breakthrough against the French will be an arduous, bloody sacrifice. It cannot be done like Poland." The initial German plan was uninspired. A mere ghost of the old Schlieffen Plan from 1914, involving a predictable swing through central Belgium. Hitler hated it. Then, fate intervened. In January 1940, a German staff plane crashed in Belgium, carrying the secret invasion plans. With the secret out, Hitler was forced to listen to a radical alternative from General Erich von Manstein. Sichelschnitt, the sickle cut. The plan was insane. Instead of attacking where the Allies expected, Germany would concentrate its armored fist, the Panzer divisions, through the Ardennes forest. To the French, the Ardennes was an impenetrable wall of wood and rock. They famously claimed, "The forest will protect us. Tanks cannot pass." Hitler bet the entire fate of the Third Reich on that one single oversight. While Germany was reinventing warfare, Britain and France were preparing to fight the last war. They poured millions into the Maginot Line, a subterranean marvel of concrete and steel. It was a masterpiece of engineering, but it created a Maginot mentality, a false sense of security that paralyzed French strategic thinking. The Allied Plan D was to wait for the Germans to enter Belgium and then rush their best units north to meet them. It was a reactive plan that gave all initiative to the enemy. Furthermore, they kept no strategic reserve. Every soldier was committed to the line, leaving the hinge of their defense, the Ardennes, guarded by second-rate, poorly equipped reserve divisions. Politics made it worse. Belgium and the Netherlands, desperate to remain neutral, refused to coordinate with the Allies until the first German bombs fell. The Allies were walking into a trap, blindfolded by their own arrogance. May 10th, 1940, the phony war ended with a scream. Germany launched Fall Gelb, Case Yellow. The Luftwaffe blackened the skies over the Low Countries. To force a rapid Dutch surrender, they firebombed Rotterdam, turning a historic port into an inferno. The Netherlands collapsed in just 5 days. In Belgium, the world watched in horror as Fort Eben-Emael, the strongest fortress on Earth, was neutralized in hours. German paratroopers landed gliders directly on top of the fort's casemates, using hollow charge explosives to silence the guns. But this was all a matador's cape. As the elite Allied armies rushed north into Belgium to face what they thought was the main attack, the real threat was emerging from the shadows of the Ardennes. 7 panzer divisions were snaking through the narrow forest roads. At one point, they formed a traffic jam 250 kilometers long. Had the French Air Force attacked then, the invasion might have died in the woods. But they didn't. They didn't believe the tanks were there. On May 13th, the panzers reached the Meuse River at Sedan. This was the tipping point of history. Generals like Heinz Guderian and Erwin Rommel didn't wait for infantry or heavy artillery. They relied on one thing: speed. French defenders were pulverized by the psychological terror of the Ju-87 Stuka bombers. The Jericho trumpet sirens on the plains broke the will of the French reserves before a single German tank even crossed the water. By the time the French realized the scale of the disaster, the panzers were already in their rear. Panic spread like a virus. "The Germans are behind us," became the cry that dissolved entire divisions. A captured French general frankly admitted, "You are too fast. It's everything." On May 20th, just 10 days after the start, German tanks reached the English Channel at Abbeville. 1 million Allied soldiers were now trapped in a gargantuan pocket. With the Allies backed against the sea at Dunkirk, Hitler did the unthinkable. He ordered the tanks to stop. For decades, historians have debated why. Was it a political gesture to Britain? Or was it Hitler's ego, wanting the Luftwaffe to take the glory? The reality was likely more grounded. The panzers were exhausted, the terrain was swampy, and the German generals feared a French counterattack on their overextended flanks. This stop order gave the Allies a 48-hour window. Operation Dynamo was launched. A fleet of little ships, from destroyers to private fishing boats, braved the Luftwaffe's bombs to rescue 338,000 men. It was a miracle of deliverance, but as Churchill reminded the world, wars are not won by evacuations. The British were safe, but France was now truly alone. After Dunkirk, Germany launched Fall Rot, Case Red, to finish the job. The odds were now 2-1 in Germany's favor. The new French commander, General Weygand, tried to implement hedgehog tactics, fortifying villages to let tanks pass, and then cutting off the following infantry. In places like the village of Stan, the French fought like lions. One French Char B-1 tank, nicknamed Ure, single-handedly destroyed 13 German tanks in a single engagement. But these were isolated sparks in a dying fire. On June 10th, Italy, seeking to share the spoils, declared war on a dying France. On June 14th, German boots echoed through the empty streets of Paris. The City of Light had fallen without a fight. The French government fled, and a civil war words erupted between General Charles de Gaulle, who wanted to fight from the colonies, and Marshal Philippe Pétain, who sought an end to the slaughter. On June 25, 1940, the guns fell silent. Hitler forced the French to sign the surrender in the exact same railway carriage where Germany had surrendered in 1918. It was the ultimate act of revenge. The fall of France cost hundreds of thousands of lives and saw 2 million French soldiers march into captivity. Germany won not because they were supermen, but because they embraced a revolution in military thought. They used the Blitzkrieg to paralyze minds that were still stuck in the trenches of 1914. However, this victory was also the beginning of the end for Hitler. The ease of the conquest convinced him that he was an infallible military genius. This arrogance would lead him to ignore his generals and launch the disastrous invasion of the Soviet Union just 1 year later. History is rarely a straight line. France fell, but the fire of resistance lit by de Gaulle in London would eventually return to these shores. The resilience of Britain under Churchill changed the course of the world. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the darkest days of 1940 on World War II stories. History isn't just about dates. It's about the lessons of adaptation and the human spirit. If you found this analysis insightful, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming deep dives into Operation Barbarossa and the siege of Stalingrad. Question of the day. Do you think the Allies could have won if they had launched a major offensive while Hitler was busy in Poland? Let us know your theories in the comments below. We love discussing history with you. Finally, share this video with your fellow history buffs. I'm your host, and we'll see you in the next chapter of World War II.